Okay, so welcome back, everyone. I really appreciate everyone coming today. I know it's the week before finals week and everyone is pretty much dead and really stressed out. So we really appreciate you all joining us today. We have something amazing in store for our meeting today. Today we have a NAIOP panel, and I'll get into that towards the end. And then this week tomorrow, we also have a business profile picture photo shoot. That will be held from 12 to 2 p.m. in the University Quad. And that's where we're going to have, that's kind of like where the Panda Express and all the food places are in between all of the colleges. I believe it's the College of Letters, Arts, and Social Sciences, the biology school, the engineering one, and there's one more there, but it's that area. And we'll be just meeting there, taking pictures, and we'll also be distributing membership packages and stoles. And I'll pass it off to Heidi.
Yes, and we want to congratulate Sanka and Talaya, who isn't here today, but they are seniors on the REA board, and they have been with REA for such a long time and have supported the entire club. And so I just wanted, or all of the e-board wants to thank both Sanka and Talaya today, since today is the last meeting.
Thank you. And I'll pass on to you again for the social media.
Yeah, so if you haven't already, you can follow us on our social media platforms where we post weekly our updates for our events, and we also post on our YouTube for our recorded meetings if you missed out or want to rewatch our meetings at a later time. We are also active on Slack. If you want to contact us directly, we are open to talk to you.
All right, and so we are closing out our semester membership for this semester. So right now we're only opening up the full year membership just because we want to get you guys to have the full experience. And next semester, the semester membership will kick up again. We have gotten our stoles. So the one in the left corner is actually what our stoles look like, which is really exciting. And tomorrow with our we're going to have a couple days open, but tomorrow is going to be the start of when we're going to give out our stoles. So if you're a graduating senior, I believe Martin is sending out a Google form, so just fill that out and we'll be sending them out tomorrow. And then I'll put in the Slack the other dates that will be available. And they're just going to be for the first 3 days of next week in front of the CPP library. But yeah, stoles are limited right now, so just like apply as soon as possible. And these are only for graduating seniors. And I believe if you're not a paid member, the stole will be $20. And so one more, and then another thing is that we have our eBoard application still open. Currently, we are looking for a scheduler and a treasurer. And marketing directors. So if you are interested, please email me at the email over there, and then we can get something started. I'll send you the application. We can start interview processes. But we want to close it up by next week, so please apply as soon as possible. And then I'll pass on to Heidi to speak about our internships.
Yes, so we have an internship opportunity. This is a non-paid internship, but it's really great for those who are interested in residential real estate or want to go or learn more about house flipping and fixes. So you'll basically be working alongside Edward Bam, and he will bring you along his day-to-day operations. So the schedule is very flexible. And if you're interested, you can contact him and have a meeting with him. He's very open and willing for students to be part of this opportunity.
And then Martin with the Nuveen internship or job.
Hey guys, so if you remember about a week ago, we had somebody from Nuveen, or two people from Nuveen come and give a presentation at REA. They have sent us a new job opportunity. The job works to analyze new opportunities for short-term, floating, and fixed-rate loans and longer-term fixed-rate permanent loans secured by real estate product types. If you're interested, please apply through their website, and here's the link in the chat. It's a great opportunity, so it'd be awesome if one of us could get it. And then also, we have this full-time development analyst at Alliance Residential Company. it is a full-time position, not an internship, so you would have to make that work in your schedule. But it is a great opportunity nonetheless. Please contact Hillary Hulse with your resume attached, and she'll get right back to you.
Yeah, and make sure to mention that this is something that you heard through CPP REA, because they have been working with us to get this out to you guys, and that'll just help you guys like get connected with Hillary faster and get an interview going. And then Marvin with the CR scholarship.
Hey everyone, just a quick reminder that the COR, scholarship is coming to a close. It is due tomorrow by 11:59. So be sure to get all those requirements if you still have the time. You must be a full-time business or finance major. Provide a copy of your resume and transcript, and you need 2 letters of recommendation, as well as to fill out the rest of the Google form. If you do end up turning everything in and getting elected, keep in mind that there is an in-person meeting May 26th that you'll have to attend.
All right, thank you. And there's still one more scholarship There's still a scholarship remaining. Norette Walls came in and talked to us about this with Crew Inland Empire. I believe that the date, Heidi, correct me if I'm wrong, it's halfway through June or July, right? But yeah, it's coming up soon. And so basically this is going to be a different one. This is for the fall one. So this is the one that Caitlin and I were lucky enough to win in last semester. And so essentially this is they're upping up the scholarship from 2,500 or 2,000 to 3,000, I believe. And it's just a great opportunity to apply, and I believe it's in our newsletter. We'll get that to you soon. The link, it's not working on their end for right now, but be on a lookout for that. It's just a quick application with questions and stuff. And yeah, before I pass it on to our guest speakers, our panel today, we just wanted to remind REA etiquette. And I know everyone's tired of me talking about this every week, last week, and that I'm going to be speaking about this. So essentially just, when we want to respect the guest speakers' time as well as get the most out of what they're saying. So we would really appreciate if you could keep the questions till the Q&A session, and there will be a long Q&A session for this panel. And during that, so if you have any questions or comments, please put them in the chat. And of course, if our guest speakers say, hey, do you guys have any questions, please raise your hand and, talk to them. And also during the Q&A session, if you could raise your hand so that we could just get through everyone. And of course, if you don't feel comfortable, raising your hand and talking today, that's fine. Just put it in the chat and someone in the e-board will, call on you and say, hey, so-and-so asked this question, or someone from the panel will as well. And now we'll pass it on to our NAIOP virtual panel discussion. Today we'll have Talene Agopian. She is a development manager at Connor Commercial Real Estate. We will also have Colin Phillips, the vice president of leasing and development at Duke Realty, Joshua Cox, the vice president at Hillwood Development, and Jay Chanhuan, the director of development at Scannell Properties. So I will pass it on to them to start the panel. Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you. Yeah, appreciate it. I thought we'd just get kicked off, probably running through each of us, introducing ourselves, our companies and our roles. And then once we're through that, we'll just take you through a quick PowerPoint presentation to describe NAIOP Inland Empire and kind of the opportunities that are there for you all. So Jay, do you want to maybe kick it off and introduce yourself, Scannell, and what you do in Southern California with industrial real estate? Oh, you're on mute, Jay.
Well, yeah. Well, thanks, Colin. Thanks for the intro. I guess before I just give a quick background about myself, I was actually on this a similar panel with the Real Estate Association maybe last year, and I helped Andres, who was a student and graduating senior, who got a job at Dado Properties. So I think this is a really good thing what you guys are doing, to try to get involved and to try to get more information about, real estate careers and NAIOP specifically. And I think it's going to go a long way. So all you guys on this discussion are, ahead of a lot of, I think, your peers and just showing, just real interest in the industry. So and I think there's positive results, like, just like with Andres Meave last year when he got the Dado Properties job. So yeah, so real quick, just in terms of my background, I've just opened up the new SoCal office for Scannell Properties. We're an industrial developer, acquire, entitle, build, lease, and sell industrial properties for Southern California. And then just prior to that, I was at Panatone Development, another industrial developer in SoCal for the past 11 years. So that's really been my kind of background in industrial real estate. And prior to that, I was also in the Navy for 6 years doing supply chain management and logistics for the Navy. So have kind of a unique background for industrial real estate, and happy to be on the panel and happy to share any experiences I have, and happy to answer any questions you guys may have that pop up.
Okay, awesome, great. Josh, looks like you're off mute. You want to go next?
Sounds good. Thanks, Colin, and thanks for having us today. Similar to Jay, I work in the industrial real estate industry. I work for Hillwood Development. Quick background on me, and then I'll jump briefly into Hillwood. But I started in the industry 16 years ago. I went to college up in the Santa Barbara area, and I didn't realize that commercial real estate was the field. I knew about residential real estate, graduated with a business major, figured out the things I didn't want to do, but wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And then I stumbled into commercial real estate and knew that I was going to love it. For me, commercial real estate's tangible. I'm on the development side, like I said. And so what I work on in the office, I get to go see in the field. I get to see what we build, benefiting our communities, just from a jobs and trade perspective. And so I've loved being in the industry, and started as a smaller developer, private company for first 10 years of my career. And then I've been at Hillwood, also a private but larger developer, my last 7 years. Hillwood is based out of Texas, started by Ross Perot Jr. 30 years ago. We moved out to California 20 years ago, started Alliance California in San Bernardino, and I've spent the last 20 years working primarily in the Inland Empire region of our market. My role specifically is Vice President of Development on the development side. Our shop is split up between transactions, so leasing, dispositions, acquisitions. I'm on the development side, so really execution, project management, dealing with due diligence, entitlements, design, permitting, and construction management. So that's a little bit about me and a little bit about Hillwood.
Great, thanks, Josh. Tallene, what about you?
Awesome. Well, my story is not too much different than theirs. I also am an industrial developer. I've been working with Connor for almost 6 years now, and I work on acquisition to disposition and everything in between, like Josh mentioned, likewise Jay. Before that, I was working for Rexford, working on acquisitions and I got that job out of school, I want to say. I had a few failed misses of job opportunities in between there, but some more context I'd say is that I grew up not far from Cal Poly. I grew up actually in Walnut, and I went to community college at Mount Sac before I transferred to USC. And at USC, I majored in economics and decided to pick up a minor in real estate development. And I'd say I thought that was a long shot at the time, because I didn't really have any resources besides just we had a real estate community association at the school as well, but it wasn't as dialed in, I think, as even you guys are. just simply because I didn't have a connection or a direct, a direct connection into people that work in the business. So I think NAIOP is a great opportunity for you guys to get in to meet people like us and see what's out there. I think what's cool about the business is that there's so many facets to it. And while, the four of us sitting on this panel kind of work on a very similar aspect of the deal, there's just so many more facets to it than what we're even going to present to you today. So I'd be happy to be a resource for you guys in the future. Colin, you're on mute.
There we go. Can you hear me okay? Okay, so I'll quickly go through mine as well. I went to school down in University of San Diego and majored in finance and real estate. I was very involved in the real estate kind of society that we had at our college, and ran that for a year. So I think it's great that you're all, doing that as well. I think you'll learn a lot from it. I'm sure you already have, and it'll open up a lot of doors. While I was at USD, I basically befriended a professor and was involved with a company down in San Diego. So my first job was working in real estate private equity. A few years after that, moved up to Orange County for a job at DCT Industrial. It's a publicly traded REIT that's no longer around. It was bought out. And then after DCT Industrial, moved on to Goodman. And Goodman's a publicly traded REIT on the Australian Stock Exchange. And now I've been at Duke Realty for about 5 years now, primarily working in Southern California, digging up new acquisition opportunities, development opportunities, working on leasing the portfolio, and kind of managing the development process. But we really have a full team here to help with all of that. And a little bit about Duke. Duke's about a $25 billion company, publicly traded on the New York Stock Exchange. We have about 164 million square feet throughout the US. We're in 19 markets and headquartered in Indianapolis. And we're really a long-term holder. So a little different than Jay and Josh's company, where they typically sell after they build a building. We're looking to hold for the long term, definitely in markets like Southern California, where the land is scarce, the opportunities are scarce, and we see a lot of benefit to owning things here long term, based on all of those factors. So that's a little bit about us, and I'm just going to open up a quick PowerPoint that we have on NAIOP. We're all four of us are very involved with NAIOP and sit on the NAIOP IE board in different capacities. And it's a really great organization. I'm not sure if, how much familiarity you all have with it, probably some, but there's some really great opportunities for you there that we'll get into at the end of this. So I'll share my screen here and hopefully you can get this to work. Okay, is that all showing up for you?
Perfect.
Okay, great. Okay, so just quickly diving in to go through who is NAIOP. It's a commercial real estate solutions group. It stands for the National Association of Industrial and Office Properties. So it's basically a collective group of developers, owners, investors of office properties, industrial properties, and then also retail and mixed use as well. It's national across the whole US, and it has over 20,000 members. So it's a very active organization, a lot of opportunities that come up through it, great networking, great information and resources. And, if you're looking and getting into commercial real estate, I highly suggest seeing everything that it has to offer, because it really does have a lot of facets that can be really beneficial to you and your career. And the chapter's mission statement for NAIOP Inland Empire is the definitive resource for real estate industry in the Inland Empire. And the chapter is dedicated to leading edge education and information, proactive legislative support, and critical business development. And really, these all are very important to us in our industry. Education and knowledge is key. We're always working with different counties, municipalities, agencies, and cities. So it's really important that we have a good relationship with them and that we're working together to accomplish our goals. So this was a little bit what I was talking about earlier about the opportunity for you all, and anyone you think who may be interested. We have over 20,000 members across the nation, and just in the Inland Empire, we have over 300. A lot of these are very active owners, developers, managers in San Bernardino and Riverside counties, and it's just a great resource. And right now, we're offering a student membership rate at $19 annually. So, I mean, for the cost of a Netflix subscription for a month, you can get an annual subscription to NAIOP and really have a ton of resources at your fingertips. And we also offer a university membership rate. It's $375 for the whole year. And with that, it's up to 25 student memberships are included. So I think both of these are amazing value. You just get a ton out of it, as we've alluded to. Just touching quickly on the industry, the power of logistics, the goods movements in the logistics industry account for 1/3 of the state's economy and jobs. So much is tied to our industry. I'm sure you all have been hearing news about supply chain issues over the past few months. We're very close to the ports of LA and Long Beach. We're a huge driver for us, and there's a huge population in Southern California. So the logistics industry is here to stay. Virtually everything that you've bought, that you can think of, probably came through a warehouse or a logistics facility, a distribution center at some point. So really, it touches our buildings, all the products that we use to live every day. Quickly, just touching on what we do as an organization to give back. We've been very active in a number of different capacities. We try and spread around to different cities and counties and nonprofits depending on needs. So we've during the pandemic, since the pandemic, we've contributed over $100,000 to various causes. We won't run through all of them, but we're all doing business in these areas, and a lot of us feel a personal connection to these areas. So we want to make sure that we're giving back to where we're doing business and helping people where they're needed. So we'll hopefully pass out some more information on all of our contact info afterwards. It can be emailed out. But if you do want to jot this number down, or this email address or website, there's a ton of great information on there. But you can always reach out to any of us personally. We'll get you in touch with the right person depending on what question you have or what your needs or asks are, and we'll get that taken care of. And I believe that's it. So that's it really for our presentation. I think for the remainder of the time, we just wanted to open it up for Q&A and see what questions you all had and what we could answer, and really want it to be interactive. So with that, I'll hand it over to you all.
All right, thank you. That was a wonderful presentation. Super excited about, I was really happy to see that you guys give back. That's a really cool aspect of, these organizations, and, guys, definitely reach out to them. You have 4 amazing people who are a part of NAIOP that you can also reach out to after this meeting. So I guess to get started with questions, Taline, I know that you mentioned something about, having the, job opportunities and, just having a hard time with that. And so, with COVID and, the recent state of how jobs are happening now, do you have any advice for us on, how to stay motivated during job search? I know it's really hard to just send all these jobs in and get all rejections. And so how would you stay motivated during this time? And this is open up to everyone, not just Tallene.
Yeah, that's a good question because I definitely I felt very intimidated even before I graduated at USC that I was not going to get a job in real estate development specifically. But what I would say is you should certainly not take you guys this self so seriously and go into your school. They have counselors that went through my resume that coached me through interviews. And that's stuff that I couldn't just ask my friends that were doing the same thing to. I wouldn't recommend you to ask your friends on their advice for interviewing, but I think that helped me stay motivated because I felt like at least a professional was going through my resume and giving me some pointers on the font down to not wearing perfume in an interview, things that you just don't even think of. But I highly recommend to use those resources that are generally available to you.
All right, thank you. And I see that Martin raised his hand and David too, so you guys can go ahead and ask your questions.
Hi, so I have a question for Jay. So I noticed on the Scanel website that you guys work doing speculative development projects. I was wondering what goes in them, what kind of analysis is required, some of the associated risks like taxes and regulations and things like that.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I will say that Scanel was actually started, more on the build-to-suit development side of things. It's based in Indianapolis. So back in the day, Bob Scanel, he actually came from Duke Realty, where Colin's at right now, and he kind of built his career there, and then he broke off and apparently back in the day, he founded the company in 1980, right around that time, or 1990, I'm sorry. And so you could tie up land and then get a purchase and sale agreement signed. And then you go out and you find a tenant and you get a lease signed. And then you take that purchase sale agreement and you take that lease and you bring it to a bank, and then they fund the whole project from there. So then that's how Bob got started with the company. And then, but for me, for Southern California, they're looking to me because I just started the SoCal office in January for Scanel. So they're looking to me to find more speculative development projects. So in Southern California, we're really a speculative development type of market. If you're in the middle America, where land is plentiful, you're not just going to build a warehouse in the middle of, a cornfield or something without knowing that a tenant is going to be occupying that building before you even start construction. Out in Southern California, the demand is so great, and supply is so ultra low that it really makes for a pretty strong speculative environment. If you've heard the term, like if you build it, they will come. So that's kind of the premise behind speculative development. And like I said, the demand for warehouse space is so great that developers take considerable risk, and put up a lot of money up front to bet through careful analysis that there's going to be a tenant that's going to want to take that space. So, you look at the Inland Empire vacancy, according to CBRE's last first quarter report of 2022, vacancy is at 0.3%, across the entire 595 million square foot in Inland Empire warehouse market. And then LA is a billion of real estate, of industrial real estate, they're at 0.5%. And Orange County is, right about 1%. So, this all this is just that there's a tremendous demand, tremendous need, for warehouse space, especially, with the e-commerce really gaining more and more market share that was really accelerated by the pandemic the last couple of years. So that has really pushed and accelerated demand for even more warehouse space. So, I think, obviously there's a lot of stuff that's happening, with the debt markets, with interest rates, inflation that I think we're all here watching and concerned about. But I think overall in Southern California, because we are so supply constrained with the limited amount of developable land that's available and the demand so high, I think we could be a little bit more insulated from kind of the overall happenings of what happens in the economy versus maybe areas that have really grown recently for industrial, like Texas, Phoenix, Vegas, Salt Lake City, Reno. Like those areas have really been taking off as well. But I think if there is some sort of slowdown or correction here, I would suspect that those markets may get a little bit more affected than we would in Southern California. So hope that answers your question.
Oh yeah, and to add to that, so in our market, at least in Southern California, it would make more sense to do more like a standardized type of construction, right? Like in terms of like the speculative investing, rather than like it wouldn't make sense to do build to suit here because there's so much demand for warehouse space specifically.
Yeah, I mean, there's still built to suits that happen here and there. Scanel actually just did a 500,000 square foot built to suit in Chino for FedEx, who Scanel does a lot of business with. So it still happens, but speculative is kind of more the way to go in this market. And then for industrial, it's not as building speculative isn't as risky because it's really most of it is warehouse space, so it's just open warehouse, and then you have a little bit of office within that warehouse. So there's not much to get wrong. I guess there's certain design standards that everyone and the market kind of agrees to. You have to be at least 36 foot clear if you're a certain building size range. You have to have a truck court a certain size. So you have to meet those kind of minimum functional standards for a standard warehouse building. But it's hard to get that wrong. One thing I've heard some people talk about as well is like speculative for cold storage, which I think is going to be a lot tougher to do speculative because all the cold storage tenants have very specific requirements. So it's hard to predict what exactly that's going to be. I mean, you could build something spec for a cold storage tenant and then be completely wrong, so it's it's hard to have a general kind of build out for cold storage spec, but so and it's really expensive to do. So we'll see kind of how that evolves, because there's definitely a need for cold storage warehousing, but I'm not really looking at doing that just yet.
Yeah, and one thing I'd just add to that, I think, in California, we have a process called CEQA. It's usually how, you go and get your entitlements or approvals to build a building. In a lot of other markets, you can, kind of basically design your building and get your permits pretty quickly. Average timing in California can be anywhere from 12 to 24 months, depending on the project. So during that time period, you're, getting your approvals to build a building. If you don't have a tenant that's working with you early on, it's pretty difficult. You have to go back and change quite a few things. And then if you're also working on the design of the building with your architect and your engineer, now you have to go back and change that too. So to get a tenant to work with you to do a build to suit, you really need to get them involved, basically when you purchase the land, right before you enter entitlements, if they have any special needs or if they have any, special building specs or anything like that. So really what we see a lot of is, we call it in the industry kind of spec to suit. We'll start a building or maybe we're just about to break ground, and then a tenant shows up like a FedEx or a Home Depot that has, pretty certain specific requirements, and we'll make minor modifications and changes. that usually does delay the project completion a little bit. So we're not usually changing the building footprint by very much, but we will make certain changes so that we are delivering them something that meets their needs. But it's pretty close to what we anticipated when we originally bought the land and we were gonna, start a speculative project.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
I hate to oversimplify it, but it's like 4 walls and a roof, if you can imagine, without lights. Until somebody kind of comes around and says, hey, this is what I want the inside to look like. So we're really designing it for flexibility for the tenant.
Yeah, I mean, we're typically trying to design like every other developer. You're trying to meet 90% of the tenant base. There's always going to be some that have certain things that they want and need, and you can get into a variety of building characteristics and what those are. But for the most part, the standard kind of agreed to building specs work for most tenants. And then when you get the nuances, usually those are, tenants that are higher credit, Fortune 500, and you're kind of willing to take on some additional time in order to secure a tenant that has some good credit that's that's going to be able to stick around, pay their bills, and be there for the long haul. And a lot of the times they'll sign longer term leases too, which can help.
All right, so I have a question for everyone, and also relates back to COVID, but I was just wondering, you guys all work in similar fields, and how, in your guys' perspective, has COVID affected, your jobs and, just your work-life balance, and also just the fields in general? And, if any of these trends are there, do you see a near end to some of them?
Yeah, I mean, I'll start off. I mean, I think at least for our industry, COVID has caused a lot of pain, throughout the world. But I think for us in logistics and industrial real estate, it's really, like I've mentioned before, it really accelerated the need for e-commerce. When the economy and all the stores were shut down, people couldn't go anywhere. But the government was pumping money into the economy with all the stimulus and stuff. So people had nowhere to go, and but they could at the click of a button, they could order a ton of stuff online. And I think the generation that was slow to adopt e-commerce really saw how convenient it was. So I think that happening really just heightened the need for more and more warehouse space. So for us and all of us here in this panel, I mean, we've been a direct beneficiary of kind of what's the changing environment and how people are shopping for retail and consumer goods. But for us, when I was at Panattoni, we shut down the office for a short period, and then and then there were all the COVID protocols that everyone kind of went through. So I think from an office standpoint, it has really changed how people view work as well, because now hybrid, kind of working from home and working physically in the office has become more of a mainstream and almost expected thing now. So if you're an employer, if you almost, because before, if someone came to, before COVID, and not hire that person. But now, it seems like the power is more on the employee, because quality labor is such in demand right now. So employers are willing to accommodate that sort of thing, and whereas in the past it just wouldn't even be on the radar. So it's definitely affected that sort of thing. And and there's other kind of, just random kind of benefits that have come about from that, kind of working from home and all that stuff as well. So.
Yeah, to jump on that, Jay, I agree. The work from home component of COVID that we've all seen, whether it's school or business, I think is changing our industry permanently. Maybe not, but I think some things won't go back to the way they are. As I've talked to colleagues recently, I think the pace of business has picked up even further. So Jay alluded to the fact that our industry has gotten busier because of COVID and industrial and e-commerce. But even just the work-life balance that was in the question, before I'd have time in the car driving between face-to-face meetings with cities, et cetera, to kind of think about my next meeting, digest the previous meeting. Now I'm back to back Zoom calls. And so there's just less time in my day to think creatively, to think strategically, and time after hours trying to catch up on emails. So I think there's a little extra busyness to the schedules, a little less face-to-face interaction. And I think for a younger generation, I read an article talking about, there's less mentorship or learning when you're working from home, working remote. It can be done, we can be efficient. I think that's something Hillwood learned. We were nervous that working from home wouldn't work, and it works. But for the generation that's trying to learn the business, if you're not in the office, it's harder to pass that on, to have those conversations, have those questions. So my encouragement to this group would be, as best you can, try to be in the office, interacting with your colleagues, because I think it's going to, in the long run, help your growth. And as best you can, it's still a people business. So I've got to get myself out of the office, off Zoom, and face-to-face with cities, face-to-face with each other, because that is the human interaction that I think is at the heart of real estate. It's a people business that's at the heart of what we do.
Yeah, that was all you had for that question. I had a question for you, Mr. Phillips. As the vice president in the leasing and development for Duke, which adversities have you faced, with that role? And are there any important characteristics you feel are necessary to be in such a position like that? And if anyone else, wants to talk about that, feel free.
Sure. Yeah. So, I love my role, love the industry. It's definitely has its challenges, as I'm sure, you talk to anyone in our industry, really, I think some of those adversities are probably just, uncertainty being maybe the number one. I think it's a role where, when you are looking to acquire new sites, there's quite a few unknowns early on. And they're large transactions, they're large dollars. Usually you have to work through them pretty quickly. It's very competitive. There's numerous qualified groups, especially in Southern California. You could see 30 offers on one deal if it's fully marketed. And most of those groups are very qualified and have the balance sheet to take a site down, and the wherewithal to be successful with it. So I think the uncertainty part is just something you need to work through and you get comfortable with. You're always dealing with a lot of open questions. We look at a lot of sites for new acquisitions, and really digging into those takes a lot of time. You need to work with consultants and experts. The longer you do it, the more the right questions to ask, kind of which rocks to look under. But there are always going to be a few things that are really pretty big hang-ups, open questions, and basically risk. So you just need to get comfortable with the risk, and at some point, hopefully you figure out the items that you're kind of stuck on, and you feel comfortable moving forward with the transaction. And you're also just dealing with ever-changing rules. The entitlement process in California is one of the strictest, most complicated and lengthy in the U.S. So you're just, constantly trying to keep up to date with the new rules. Usually we need approvals from counties and cities and different municipalities. So you need to know, how they're thinking, how they're viewing things in order to, come to a sound decision. So I'd say, it's a kind of a collection of all that uncertainty. But, if you stick with it, and you're diligent, you'll learn a lot. And as you go, it gets a little easier, and you're able to sleep at night a little better.
Yeah, that's great. Is there any, I'm just opening it to the whole panel. Is there any cases where, like you're facing that uncertainty, and then was there ever a time where a lot of you just didn't know what you were doing or how you were going to, deal with the problem? Was there a team you could rely on or something like that? How did you guys work through a moment like that?
Yeah, so I can take it really quick. I mean, a recent thing that comes to my mind is just we were approved on a project that, won't get into specifics, and there was some litigation kind of tied to it. And that creates a lot of uncertainty and timing. We budget out and forecast when are we supposed to break ground on this project, finish it, hopefully lease it, get a tenant in there that's paying us rent. So you're never gonna expect that to happen going into a transaction. So when it does, everything really just gets delayed, and it's hard to guess when that's gonna end. So luckily that did end, sooner than we thought, and we were very happy with the result. But that's just kind of an example of something that's unexpected. And then, we purchased a transaction or a piece of land recently, and it did have some environmental issues on it. So, we're going to go in and remediate the site and clean it up. But those always do add a level of complexity. And you need to bring in some experts that know how to deal with it, because you are dealing with a variety of different agencies. And, we're long-term holders. We want to do things the right way, and make sure we clean up the site correctly. So those are kind of two examples of recent transactions that come to mind.
Yeah, and I'll add to that. I mean, there's no one knows everything, so we have to rely a lot on our consultants that we work with, the experts, engineers that have done this all their lives. So, I haven't really dug into very deeply to check the math on the structural engineers, structural calcs, because there has to be some sort, you can't do everything. So you have to, in our role, we're like, kind of sports analogy, you're kind of like a quarterback as a developer. You got to know everybody's position. Like quarterback will know, what the routes the receivers are running, what the offensive linemen, kind of what their blocking scheme is going to, what they're doing, where they're, and stuff like that. So for us too, I mean, we just have to be really, have a wide breadth of knowledge in all these different areas, but you can only go so deep. Otherwise you'll never sleep, or you'll never, see your family. So you really have to learn, the time management and just having the experience, because over time you'll find out what's kind of important, what are the hot buttons. Because I think when you start out, you might not know what's important, because you can focus all your time, trying to solve some issue, but at the end of the day, maybe that's not the most important thing you should be focusing on. So some of that just comes with time and experience, and you can't just jump start to having all this knowledge. So as students, when you're getting out to the industry, whatever industry you choose, just always be willing to learn and be humble to want to learn, because you're never just stagnant, right? You're either growing or you're regressing. So for me, I try to just keep getting better each day, keep improving myself and focusing more so on my kind of improvement. Whereas, and I still have, this fighting with this as well, but, you sometimes tend to compare yourself, especially, as students, you might, try to compare yourself. Oh, look at that guy. He just got this great job. Or look at that girl. She just got this great internship. Why can't that be me? Or, or thinking like that don't fall into that trap, because it just, I would just say, just try to focus more so on yourself and your own improvement. And when you look back at, and even now for all you guys, especially the seniors, you look back at to how far you've come and how much you've learned during the 4 years you've been in school, you can, I think you can really appreciate, all the hard work you've done, all the, sleepless nights, studying for tests and coming out, on the other end and making it, so, rely on the stuff you've done in the past to help propel you forward. So let's, just wanted to share that.
Oh yeah, that's very insightful, and a great philosophy to live by every day, to always be a lifelong learner. So yeah, I really appreciate that response. Thank you.
Can I add to just being a good learner though? It's
Yeah.
when you get into these positions, you're going to learn very quickly that you're not going to know the answer most of the time. And so, the way I approached it out of school was, specifically in this position with my boss, I took on a lot of roles when I took on this position, and I really did not know much. But in most scenarios, you're presented with a few options in which you proceed. And I'd say even now, I don't know all of the answers, but I evaluate each one of those, those options or varieties of paths that we're going to take. And I present those options to my boss after I've critically thought through them and try to come up with what the outcome would be if we took this outcome versus the other. And even then, sometimes I'm still not necessarily right. And I want to make it clear that there's not always a right or wrong in our business. I think all of us standing up here have made lots of mistakes before. And when we were making the mistakes, we thought they were the right decision at the time. And so I think you do have to remain humble, because you will be shown otherwise. And I think also it's very important to work with somebody that is a good mentor to you and can teach you well, because you can be very willing to learn and not have the right mentorship and not really excel because you're just not being guided well.
Yeah, no, that's very true. Thank you so much.
Nice.
Yeah, hi. Well, I had a question. You guys kind of answered it, but I wanted to direct it to Josh. I wanted to know, you briefly spoke about it, but if you could just speak a little bit more on what your role is as Vice President of Development. And you guys kind of answered it, but I was saying I wanted to ask what kind of advice you would give to us who are going to be entering such high position roles that you guys are already in. So yeah.
Sounds good. Yeah, so specifically for Hillwood, every development company or shop is set up differently, but my role, I consider myself a project manager. The title of Development Director or Vice President of Development, as we call it at Hillwood, is focused on the execution, like I said earlier. So, Colin, for example, is doing more of the leasing, the acquisitions, dispositions, the deal side, working with the brokers. I'm more working with the architects, the engineers, the contractors. So when, let's say Colin and I work together, he'll identify a land site. I'll go and work on the due diligence, figure out, where the bones are buried, if the soil's good, if it's zoned with the city appropriately, what the CEQA entitlement process is, and then I'll quarterback the team that gets the entitlement design and the permit done, and then hire the contractor to get it built. So as was alluded to before by Jay and Talene, is it's about having a good team. So what makes me successful is I've got a good team here at Hillwood, but really I've got a good consultant team. And to answer the other question briefly is, if you're not challenged in what you're doing, whether you're at the beginning, middle, or end of your career, I think you're missing it. I've usually been in over my skis, and that's when you get the best growth. So to answer the second part of your question, for me, I started as a project coordinator. We call it development coordinator. So I didn't know anything. I was an admin. So I had gone to school, done well in high school, done well in college, thinking I was going to have this lofty job. And in real estate, it's a people business, like I said earlier, as opposed to a knowledge business. You got to learn, but it's not about a degree as much as are you a good learner and experience. So it's about putting the time in. So my encouragement to you is you're going to start in a position where you're going to have to learn and grow in the experience. So it's taken me 15 plus years to grow from project coordinator to development manager to development director to vice president of development. It's a process. And so along the way, there's lots of mentors, like Talene said, that will pour into you, and then just ask a lot of really good questions. You're expected to not know everything, so ask good questions, and that's how you'll grow. So everyone has a different journey. Maybe you'll jump in at a different level than I did, but my journey was, just slowly but surely learning the experience of commercial real estate, and then that's how I was able to move up in the industry.
Yeah, thank you. That helps a lot.
All right, so we are.
Stay curious. Like someone said, lifelong learner, but stay curious and ask questions and make sure you surround yourself with good people. Lots of networking.
Thank you so much. We are getting towards the end of our meeting. It's almost 1 p.m. and some people have, some of the students have classes after this. So if anyone has any final questions, we can say them now, or, we can wrap it up over here. I want to say thank you for our panelists for joining us today, and, ending our last meeting of this semester with a bang. I think this was such a great meeting, and I wouldn't have wanted to have it any other way. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you for having us. We really appreciate it. And if there, any questions weren't able to be answered or asked, please email us, call us, and we'll make sure to do it and reach out. We look forward to hearing from you. And please don't hesitate to sign up for NAIOP. I think, it's a great deal, $19 for the whole year. And I think there's a lot of resources there for y'all. And good luck on finals.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
All right,
Take care,
thank you,
everyone.
everyone.
Take care.
Take care.
Thank you guys. Take care.
Thank you so much. All right.